How did I end up here? How did the man who promised to build a life with me, who stood beside me through every struggle, become the person trying to destroy everything we created together? I sat in that courtroom on a cold Tuesday morning, my hands trembling in my lap, watching Marcus across the aisle. He looked so composed, so confident. His lawyer, a sharp woman in an expensive suit, shuffled papers with practiced ease. My 11-year-old son Ethan sat beside me, unusually quiet. He'd insisted on coming today, said he needed to be there for me. I'd tried to protect him from all of this, but kids see more than we think. The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Richardson, reviewed the documents in front of her. This was supposed to be a simple property division hearing. Simple, that's what my lawyer David had said. But nothing about the last 6 months had been simple. Let me back up. 14 years ago, I met Marcus at a business networking event. I was 24, fresh out of culinary school, working as a sous chef and dreaming of opening my own restaurant. He was 27, charming, ambitious, working in commercial real estate. We clicked immediately. He believed in my dreams when no one else did. When I told him I wanted to open a farm-to-table restaurant, he didn't laugh. He said, "Let's make it happen." We got married a year later. 2 years after that, Ethan was born. And 3 years after that, we opened Harvest Moon Restaurant. It was everything I'd dreamed of. A small, intimate space with an open kitchen, local ingredients, seasonal menus. Marcus handled the business side while I ran the kitchen. We were partners in every sense. The restaurant took off. Within 3 years, we'd expanded to a second location, then a third. Marcus suggested we form an LLC, said it would protect us legally. I trusted him. He was my husband, my business partner. Why wouldn't I trust him? Ethan grew up in those restaurants. He'd do his homework at table 6, the one near the kitchen where I could check on him between services. The staff adored him. He learned to make pasta at 8, could identify herbs by smell at 9. Those were good years, or so I thought. Everything changed last March. Marcus came home late one night and sat me down at our kitchen table. "I want a divorce," he said. Just like that. No preamble, no explanation. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "What? Marcus, what are you talking about? I'm not happy. Haven't been for a long time. I've already filed the papers." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "Filed? You didn't think we should talk about this first? Try counseling?" "There's nothing to talk about. It's over." His voice was so cold, like he was discussing a failed business deal. The next morning, I tried to access our business accounts to check some vendor payments. Locked out. I called our bank. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen, but Mr. Chen has restricted account access. You'll need to speak with him." My hands went numb. We had 3 restaurants, payroll to meet, suppliers to pay. I called Marcus. "What did you do?" "Protecting my assets during the divorce," my lawyer advised it. "Your assets. Marcus, we built this together. Actually, if you check the LLC documents, you'll see I own 70%. You own 30%. My capital contributions were significantly higher. I hung up and immediately dug out our business formation documents. He was right. The documents showed him as majority owner. But that wasn't how it happened. I remembered those conversations, remembered us agreeing to equal partnership. I'd been so focused on the restaurant, on making the food perfect, that I'd barely glanced at the paperwork he put in front of me. He'd handled all the legal and financial details. I'd trusted him. I called David Anderson, the lawyer my friend Rachel recommended. David was in his 50s, with kind eyes and a reputation for fighting hard for his clients. When I explained the situation, he sighed. "Sarah, I see this too often. How much liquid cash do you have access to?" "Maybe $3,000 in my personal account. Everything else is joint or business accounts." "Check those joint accounts right now." I opened my banking app while we were on the phone. Our joint savings account, which had $48,000 last time I checked, now showed a balance of $1,200. Our checking account had $300. "He took it all," I whispered. "Get copies of all business documents. Any emails about ownership structure, text messages, everything. We're going to fight this." Over the next few weeks, I discovered the full extent of Marcus's planning. He'd been siphoning money from our business accounts for months, transferring it to accounts I didn't know existed. He'd been documenting every time I had to work late, every school event I'd missed because of an important dinner service, building a case that I was a neglectful mother. Then came the custody papers. Marcus was seeking full custody of Ethan, with me getting supervised visitation only. His filing painted me as an absent mother consumed by work, claiming Ethan was suffering academically and emotionally due to my neglect. I broke down when I read that. Yes, I worked long hours, but I was building something for our family. And Ethan never complained. He loved the restaurants, loved cooking with me on my days off. Or at least, I thought he did. The worst part? Marcus had hired Dr. Patricia Morrison, a child psychologist who'd met with Ethan 3 times. Her report stated that Ethan exhibited signs of emotional neglect and expressed desire to live primarily with his father. I'd never even known about these sessions. I sat Ethan down that night. "Sweetheart, did Dad take you to see a doctor? A therapist?" He looked uncomfortable. "Dr. Morrison?" "Yeah, a few times." "What did you talk about?" "Stuff. She asked about you and Dad, about school. Dad said I should be honest. That she was trying to help. What did you tell her?" "I don't know, Mum." She asked if I felt lonely, and I said sometimes. She asked if you were home much, and I said you work a lot. I was just answering her questions. My heart sank. Marcus had coached our son, fed carefully worded questions to a psychologist, and created a narrative of neglect. David worked tirelessly, but Marcus's lawyer was ruthless. They blocked every attempt to access business records. They had documentation showing Marcus's investments in the business, conveniently omitting my sweat equity, the recipes I'd created, the reputation I'd built. On paper, it looked like he'd funded everything while I was just an employee, who happened to be his wife. The property division hearing was scheduled for late September. David warned me it didn't look good. He's got documentation, expert witnesses, a therapist's report. Unless we can prove fraud or find evidence he's hidden assets, the judge will likely rule in his favor on the business. As for custody, we need to show you're not the absent mother he's painting you as. "I'm not absent. I'm building a future for my son." "I believe you, Sarah, but we need proof." I couldn't sleep the night before the hearing. I kept thinking about everything I'd lose. The restaurants that had my soul in every dish. My son. Everything. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Richardson presided, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s. Marcus sat with his lawyer, looking confident. I sat with David, my stomach in knots. Marcus's lawyer went first, presenting their case with clinical precision. She showed the LLC documents, bank records showing Marcus's capital contributions, testimony from their business consultant about typical ownership structures. She made it sound so reasonable, so cut and dry. Then she brought up custody. "Your Honor, Dr. Morrison's evaluation clearly shows that Ethan Chen would benefit from primary placement with his father, Mrs. Chen's work schedule is erratic and demanding. She frequently works until midnight, often 6 days a week. Mr. Chen, whose job allows more flexibility, has been the primary caregiver for years." I wanted to scream. Marcus worked just as much as I did, but his office job looked better on paper than my restaurant hours. David fought back hard. He presented evidence of my involvement in Ethan's life, school records showing I attended parent-teacher conferences, photos of us together. He argued that the business was as much mine as Marcus's, regardless of what the paperwork said. "Your Honor." Mrs. Chen didn't just contribute labor. She contributed the concept, the recipes, the culinary expertise that made these restaurants successful. She built the reputation. The paperwork doesn't reflect the reality of their partnership. Judge Richardson listened, asked questions, reviewed documents. I could see her weighing everything, and my heart sank. The documentation was against me. Then Marcus took the stand. His lawyer walked him through his testimony carefully. How he'd invested his savings, how he'd handled all the business operations, how concerned he was about Ethan's well-being. "Mr. Chen, can you describe your son's typical weeknight?" "He comes home from school around 4. Often there's no one home because Sarah is at one of the restaurants. He makes himself a snack, does his homework alone. I try to get home by 6 to make him dinner. Sarah usually doesn't get home until 11 or later. It sounded terrible. It sounded like I was a terrible mother. David cross-examined. Mr. Chen, you claim you invested significantly more capital than your wife. Can you provide records of these investments beyond the initial LLC formation? Marcus hesitated for just a second. My financial records are in the documents we submitted. Yes, showing transfers into the business account. But where did that money come from? Can you provide bank statements showing these were your personal funds? I can get those. You don't have them now? They're not immediately available. David pressed. Isn't it true that much of that capital came from the home equity line of credit on the house you jointly owned with Mrs. Chen? Some of it. That was a business decision we made together. So it wasn't solely your capital contribution. Marcus's lawyer objected. They argued procedure, and Judge Richardson called for a recess. During the break, I sat in the hallway with Ethan. He'd been so quiet all morning. You okay, buddy? Mum, can I ask you something? Anything. If Dad gets the restaurants and I have to live with him most of the time, will I still see you? My heart broke. Of course, sweetheart. Always. Good. Because I need to tell you something. I've been really scared to say it. What is it? He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. I recorded some stuff. Dad and his lawyer were talking in our living room a few weeks ago. They didn't know I was home. I was doing homework in my room, and I heard them, so I started recording on my phone. Ethan, what did they say? Just listen. He handed me his phone with earbuds. I listened to the recording. Marcus's voice clear as day. The therapist report worked perfectly. I told you Morrison would deliver what we needed. Cost me $5,000, but worth every penny. His lawyer's voice, and the financial documents. Backdate some transfers, make it look like bigger investments. Sarah never paid attention to the paperwork anyway. She was too busy playing chef. They laughed. They actually laughed. There were more recordings. Marcus on the phone. Once I get full custody, I can sell the restaurants. She won't be able to stop me. Her 30% means nothing without management control. Another one with Marcus and someone else. Yeah, the whole neglect angle is bullshit, but it'll work. Judges eat that up. I stared at my son. How many of these do you have? 4. I kept recording whenever I heard him talking about the divorce. I knew he was lying. Mum. I knew it. You're not a bad mum. You work hard for us. I hugged him tight. We need to show these to David, right now. When court reconvened, David requested permission to approach the bench. He spoke quietly with Judge Richardson and Marcus's lawyer. I saw Marcus's lawyer's face go pale. Judge Richardson looked at me. Mrs. Chen, I understand you have new evidence? Yes, Your Honor. My son has recordings that are directly relevant to this case. Marcus's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. These recordings were made without my client's knowledge or consent. They're inadmissible. Judge Richardson looked stern. In Illinois, one-party consent is sufficient for recordings. If the child was present during these conversations, they're admissible. I'll allow it. Ethan stood up, his voice shaky but clear. Your Honor, can I play something? There's stuff my dad said that my mum doesn't know about. Go ahead, young man. The courtroom went silent as Ethan connected his phone to the court's audio system. The first recording played. Marcus's voice filled the room, bragging about manipulating the therapist, about doctoring financial documents. I watched Marcus's face drain of colour. His lawyer tried to object, tried to explain it away, but the recordings were damning. 4 separate conversations where Marcus admitted to fraud, to manipulating custody evaluations, to planning to sell the restaurants the moment he had control. In the last recording, Marcus was talking to someone on the phone. Sarah's emotional. She'll break down on the stand, make herself look unstable. Between that and Morrison's report, custody's mine. Then I sell Harvest Moon for what it's really worth, probably $2 million for all 3 locations. Sarah gets her 30% of nothing, because I'll bury the real value in debt before the sale. She'll walk away with maybe $100,000, while I clear over $1 million. And she can't do anything about it because she's too stupid to understand business. The courtroom was dead silent when the recording ended. Judge Richardson's expression was thunderous. Mr. Chen, do you care to explain these recordings? Marcus stammered. I was venting. I didn't mean. You didn't mean to commit fraud? To perjure yourself in my courtroom? To manipulate a mental health professional's evaluation of your child? Your Honor, I can explain. I've heard enough. Bailiff, please contact the state's attorney's office. Mr. Chen, you're looking at charges of fraud, perjury, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As for this case, I'm granting Mrs. Chen full legal and physical custody of Ethan, with Mr. Chen's parenting time to be supervised, pending criminal proceedings. Regarding the business, I'm ordering a forensic audit of all accounts. Any transfers made in the last 12 months are frozen pending that audit. She turned to Dr. Morrison, who'd gone white. Dr. Morrison, the Illinois Licensing Board will be receiving a copy of these recordings. If you accepted payment to falsify an evaluation, you will face consequences. Marcus tried to stand. Your Honor, please. Sit down. We're not done. Mrs. Chen, I'm granting you immediate operational control of all 3 restaurant locations. Mr. Chen, you're barred from the premises and from accessing any business accounts. If Mrs. Chen chooses to buy out your interest, she'll do so at fair market value determined by an independent appraiser, not the inflated figures I suspect you've been planning. 2 police officers appeared at the courtroom doors. Judge Richardson nodded to them. Mr. Chen, these officers will escort you out. You'll be contacted about the criminal charges. I watched in shock as they handcuffed Marcus. He looked at me, his face a mix of rage and fear. Sarah, please. This is a misunderstanding. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. Ethan grabbed my hand. He was crying. I'm sorry, Mom. I know he's still my dad, but what he said about you. You have nothing to be sorry for, sweetheart. You were so brave. Judge Richardson looked at us, her expression softening slightly. Young man, what you did took tremendous courage. I know this can't be easy, hearing your father talk that way. Do you have any questions for me? Ethan wiped his eyes. Will I really have to live with him sometimes? Only with supervision, which means another adult will be present, and only if you're comfortable with it. Your mother has full custody. You're old enough that your preferences matter. I want to stay with my mum. Then that's what will happen. The aftermath was surreal. The forensic audit revealed that Marcus had transferred over $300,000 from our business accounts to offshore accounts in the months before filing for divorce. He'd created fake vendor invoices, false expense reports, all carefully documented to make it look legitimate. The criminal charges stuck. Marcus was eventually convicted of fraud and perjury. He served 3 years in prison. Dr. Morrison lost her license. Marcus's lawyer faced ethics violations. As for me, I bought out Marcus's interest in the restaurants at fair market value, which after debts and legitimate expenses came to less than he'd hoped. The insurance policy we'd had on the business helped finance the buyout. I renamed the original location Harvest Moon by Sarah Chen, and the others followed. Our head chef, Maria, who'd been with me from the beginning, became my business partner with a 20% stake. Ethan went to therapy for a while, processing everything. It wasn't easy for him. Despite everything, Marcus was still his father. But gradually, he healed. He spent more time in the kitchens, learned more about cooking. On his 13th birthday, he made an entire tasting menu for the staff. Every dish was perfect. Sometimes I still can't believe what happened. That my 11-year-old son saved everything I'd worked for, saved our family. That his courage in that courtroom changed everything. People ask me if I'm angry at Marcus. Honestly, I'm grateful. Grateful he showed his true self before he could do more damage. Grateful I have Ethan, who saw the truth and was brave enough to speak it. Grateful for the second chance to build something real, something honest. Last month, we opened our 4th location. Ethan helped design the menu. He's 14 now, already talking about culinary school. At the opening night, he gave a toast. To my mum, who taught me that hard work and honesty always win, and that the truth will always come out, even if it takes an 11-year-old with a cell phone to make it happen. Everyone laughed, but he was right. The truth did come out, and we're still standing, stronger than before. That's what I told Judge Richardson when she came to dinner at our flagship restaurant last year, her retirement celebration. She ordered the braised short ribs, Ethan's signature dish. That was a remarkable case, she said. In 30 years on the bench, I've never seen a child show that kind of courage and integrity. He learned it from watching his mum fight, I said. She smiled. He learned it from having a mother worth fighting for. I think about that day in court a lot. The silence when those recordings played, the look on Marcus's face when he realized his carefully constructed lies were crumbling, the weight lifting off my shoulders when Judge Richardson ruled in our favor. But mostly, I think about Ethan's hand in mine and his voice saying, I knew he was lying. Mom, I knew it. Kids see everything. They understand more than we give them credit for. And sometimes, when the adults fail them, they save themselves. And us too.